keep a secret? It's not really a secret. I mean, it's kind of well known, at least to us. If you're looking for really high quality replacement cleats for your existing cleat system, whether it be Look Delta, Look Keo, Garmin Vector, SPD SL, and even just regular SPD, consider giving Mark Cycling a try. They offer a wide range of options at an affordable price, ranging from $14 to $20. So next time you realize that the tabs have worn out on your SPD SL cleats, visit markcycling.com, and whenever you find your perfect cleats, enter code HAMMER20 at checkout to receive 20% off your entire order. That's right, 20% off. Now, on with the show. Welcome to 5339. I'm Andrew.
And I'm Nick. Today we're talking to Matt Stevens. Super excited about this one.
I am pretty excited too. This has been a long time in the making. I know there's been a lot of back and forth, and just super excited to talk with him and kind of get his story. But before we talk to Matt, what's new with you, dude?
Well, our weekly Zwift event's been going 6 weeks now, I think.
Yeah.
We've had some pretty good success with it, so thanks for everybody that's joined. I know we've had some riders from all over the globe that we've chatted to. There was a guy from Australia that was excited that his warm weather riding was coming and was making fun of us for our cold weather coming.
And he was also super excited that his grandchild was super excited too.
Yeah. His grandkid was like throwing a fit, and I thought it was your kids at first.
I thought it was too. I had to take out the headphones, and I was like, oh man, busted. And then he was like, no, I watched my grandkid and she's not happy right now. I was like, all right.
So, but seriously, thanks to everybody that's joined so far. Hope to have more of you as the winter progresses up here in the Northern Hemisphere. I got my first podium in Zwift Racing League. Not that anybody cares, but I'm super pumped about that.
Dude, you got your first, what did you call it? Your urn?
Well, yeah, I mean, I've had urns before.
Oh, what do you mean a podium?
I actually got top 3 in a Zwift Racing League event.
Oh, well done, man.
I've won Zwift events before, but that's been according to Zwift Power, and it hasn't been like an organized event, but I was pretty pumped about the Zwift Racing League.
Was there a virtual podium?
There should have been, damn it. But no, there was not.
That's disappointing.
Nor were there any podium girls to give out little little stuffed lions or anything. So
that's always the worst part about the virtual podium. It's that no stuffed lions.
I know. But I did make a small purchase.
Whoa, you've been holding back, which is odd because I know you've been sending me way more Facebook Marketplace things as of late, which means you're.
Yeah, well, by the way, I'm super disappointed that you were like, no, just straight no to the track bike. And then you're like, you sent me one an hour later, like, winter track bike project, ? I'm like, that's not even a track bike, dude.
I was in a mood.
Obviously.
It was in the middle of the workday. I was trying to get things done.
I did make a small purchase. I ordered this a while ago. It was supposed to be in September, and that whole
14 years ago.
That whole global pandemic supply chain issues, it finally came in this week. So I do have a new saddle that I'm testing out. By the time this airs, I will have had my first ride on it, but I haven't ridden it yet.
I'm kind of curious, and I actually haven't asked you this. Why did you switch up saddles?
Well, I have 2 Bontrager Aeolus that I really, really like.
Worst name ever.
But the last time I ordered one, it took 6 months to come in.
Oh.
And they're $95.
Oh.
And
bougie saddles.
So, dude, are you serious? Do you even know what a bougie saddle is?
I do. Actually, I have a $100 saddle on my bike.
Mine don't have carbon rails. They just have round aluminum rails. Like, it's fine. And so I didn't really want to wait until spring to get a third saddle so that all of my bikes had saddles I liked. So I was looking to see if there was ones that had similar shapes, and Sella makes one that just came out, I think 3 or 4 months ago. And this is a cool fun fact about this saddle. It's 100% recyclable.
What? Is it made out of...
Seriously, I'll send you the link. The saddle itself is 100% recyclable.
That's kind of cool, though.
Yeah. And the best part was it was $55.
That makes the frugal happy.
Right?
And so your wife probably, too.
It's a very similar shape to the Bontrager, same dimensions. So super excited.
Is that the one you have in your Damani?
Yeah.
Yeah, it won't work for me, but that's okay.
I thought you liked that.
No, I rode your Damani once, and I was like, "This is weird."
I don't know, but you can have.
I could handle it for 20 miles, but
you can have this saddle then. Now that it's off the, not that you have a bike to put it on.
I will
eventually,
at some point. Yeah,
but that's over. That's kind of my big news. I've been on one outdoor ride, I think, since the last time we recorded, which is not acceptable.
That's depressing.
Right? No, I've been on. I guess a
you've
couple.
Been on a few.
I've been on
That's a
one with
lie.
you, two with you, three with you, technically, because I don't think we recorded since we did the Friday. We both needed to get out of the house and on bikes ride.
It was after work, if anybody's listening. Actually, I think I was off.
That's not entirely a false statement.
I mean, it was after work because we were using PTO.
So yeah, I'm hoping to get out tomorrow with the mayor, test out the new saddle, and hope the snow doesn't come on Sunday.
I hope it does.
I hope it does not.
I'm excited for snow. I'm not excited.
Let's go to Florida.
Snow. I'm not excited for snow. I just remembered because I told my daughters that we can't watch Frozen until it snows for the first time, and I've been so happy.
I hope it snows so hard.
We watched Frozen so many times. I was in like client meetings, and I started to be like, "Let it go," and I was like, "Shut up, Andrew! Stop saying that."
It's perfectly acceptable to do that in client meetings. It makes you more endearing, which is a challenge for you.
What?
I said it.
People tolerate me.
Exactly my point. So what have you been up to? As you take a swig of whatever's in mystery vessel.
It's called water.
You should try it sometime.
Yeah, I just got off the trainer, so I don't think I'll have a beer this evening. Maybe tomorrow. A little bit of this, a little bit of that. Kind of easing back into things. I'm riding about 6 out of 7 days, which is cool. Mainly a lot of zone 2, just trying to build up my base again so that I don't get yelled at, and not hammering. I did go mountain biking, but I discovered that my shoulder was not ready for that, so I'm going to postpone that for a few weeks.
Yeah, your shoulder was like, not today.
No, it was like, no, man. And yeah, I felt like in my head, it was like I was, trying to go over like a 10-foot route, but then I looked back and it was like 4 inches off the ground. It was kind of pathetic. I was like, I could have like just rolled over that, no problem. But no, I decided to pull up on the handlebars, and my shoulder was like, nope, I'm going to make you feel something weird. So, but I did discover a couple weeks ago, actually, I think it's been through 3 weeks now. Been doing the beer run, I guess. It's a local group ride. They meet every week, every Thursday, and go to a different pub, and you do like 20 or 30 miles.
Yeah, I wish the starting point was a little closer to me. That's the downfall for me, is it's a pain to get to at the time of day that they meet.
Because, we all live over here, and you live way over there.
Yeah, except you're the one that lives in BFE.
Can't confirm. Yeah, I had to turn off 5G because it sucks.
No, it's like I'm on the south side of Pittsburgh, and the group meets on the east side, and going from the south to the east is not conducive at rush hour.
And he's complaining, but have you ever driven in LA?
I have not, but
you keep it that way.
It's all relative. It's all relative.
But I have discovered that like this new group, it's kind of nice because it gives me a reason to socialize. I know that sounds strange, but often whenever I go on group rides,
solo group rides.
Yeah. I mean, like, the Trek Sunday ride, for whatever reason, I just get into my own groove, and I don't know why, but this ride's a little bit different.
Were you at the end of the airport connector when you turned around and realized that we were helping Seth repair his
I was like
his broken chain?
Dude, I was like 6 minutes ahead of you guys, and I was like, what is going on? And Steve was like, where did you go? And I was like, I was at the end.
That's what he texted you? We know where you went. It's just how far up did you go?
Yeah, I was quite far. I was at that gate where the scary dog is usually.
He hasn't been there for a while.
Yeah, I think he's dead.
The first time I took you past that, I totally forgot to warn you about him.
Dude, I nearly shit my pants.
You nearly crashed into me.
Oh my God, that dog came running towards us, and then I realized, he's on a chain. Okay, but what if the chain breaks? Oh God.
Yeah, because it's a muscular dog.
It is stout. It's like, yeah, he is. Yeah.
Thick with 6 C's.
Yeah, if that dog were a person, it would be like a Mr. Universe. Like,
yeah, I mean, it was
thick.
Yeah.
The pronunciation K.
He pumped some iron.
Yeah. He's Arnold.
Arnold.
But no, this new group ride's kind of nice because, like, one, I like beer, obviously. But two, I don't know. It forces me to socialize with like different people and different cyclists from different backgrounds, and it's just kind of cool. So
Arnold.
So yeah, pump you up.
We're here. What is it? Hans and Franz.
Hans and Franz.
We're here to pump you up.
No, it's pump you up. Moving on, we do actually have a question, which is kind of interesting.
This is becoming my new favorite segment of the show.
What cyclist do you look to for inspiration?
Do you want the generic answer or do you want the pro Peloton answer?
I want the generic answer. The base. I need to go into a bike shop and purchase a bike for $1,000 answer. I'm just getting started answer. Like your base level.
Yeah. So my base level answer is actually all you guys that I ride with.
That's cheesy as hell.
You guys are the ones that get me out, man.
Well, we do. Like whenever I text you and say, get your head out of your ass, we're going for a ride.
Yeah. I like honestly though, like it's you and Seth and Steve and for various reasons, but you guys are all the reason I ride, like.
Oh, fair enough.
If you want my pro Peloton answer, it's going to be kind of generic, but I got to go with Peter Sagan. He's got the high end power. Like, I mean, obviously I can't put out his kind of power, but if I trained, I probably could. But he's like one of the guys that is a sprinter and will win sprints, but he's not going to climb with, Egan Bernal or anything, but he can still climb. And
dude, he's probably one of the best all around cyclists.
Yeah. And that's why
ever.
he's kind of my hero. Cause like he's got the high end, like he can throw down probably close to 2,000 watts but he can also get up and over some pretty serious stuff in not a slow fashion.
Yeah.
Your answer I'm interested in hearing because I think I know one way you might go with this, but I don't know if that's the way you're going to go for the podcast.
It's a few. I mean, I make it very publicly known that I'm a big fan of Greg LeMond, but for one very specific
reason. He won a couple
reason.
of big races. I don't know what the big deal is about him.
Well, but it's mainly the ADHD.
I know. I'm just being sarcastic.
Oddly enough, this question is well timed because we do talk about that with Matt Stevens a little bit because it also Matt Stevens likes Greg. But
yeah, really,
it's kind of the nickname you inadvertently gave me is one of the people that I kind of
the Manx.
Yeah, one of two or three people that I look at for kind of inspiration. He's one of those people like him and Froome and a few of the guys that used to be big back in like 2010 and 2011, 2012.
Chris Froome resents that, by the way.
Well, whatever. I don't care. You can take your rim brakes and go away.
But, or he's just going to bitch about the disc brakes that he has to ride now.
Probably, yeah. It's so heavy. Oh my God. Well, and you could hop on an aluminum like the rest of us poor people. But no, it's kind of like I respect those guys because they kind of prove that age is irrelevant in some ways. Like if with the proper amount of training and focus, like you are capable of doing an awful lot. And it's not necessarily the power that like Cavendish throws out, which I mean, he does throw an amazing amount of power, but like even whenever like I've been watching a lot of like GCN documentaries. So like, Boardman and a few of those guys that are just like absolute monsters. You look at them and you're like, they are still able to kind of do it. I mean, maybe not Chris Boardman as much, but
he could still probably beat both of us in an hour record though.
Dude, it wouldn't take much. I would just die. I'd fall over. But it's just one of those things. It's like
I got to 6 laps. Is that going to be good enough?
Yeah, is that good? But it's just one of those things that like kind of says, okay, age is it's just a number, right? And what you throw at it is what that number really represents. And for me, that's kind of as I do get older, the days certainly get longer sometimes, but it's one of those things that I'm like, yeah, I can do this. I can hammer it out. I'm perfectly capable of it because I work hard and look at these other guys. They can do it. So I certainly can, which means I'll probably have a heart attack at whatever age, but whatever.
42, but that's
40.
Neither here nor there.
I thought that was the meaning of life.
43.
Oh,
It's the answer to the ultimate question.
One away. But thank you, Jeff from Glastonbury, UK. I think it's how it's pronounced. For sending that question because it actually made me think for a second. So I appreciate that.
To the listeners that are submitting them, we're reading them and we're going to throw one or two in each episode. And I've been enjoying getting the questions and making.
Oh, we definitely read them.
Us think. Yeah. So But before we get into the interview with Matt, what can you tell us about him?
Oh man, Matt Stevens, where to begin? Matt's one of those guys that I think both of us have always kind of respected and looked at as
He's
like
a
an awesome person and
he's like
cyclist.
a big reason that I've kind of felt like he's one of those people that I never met until obviously we did the interview, but he's one of those people that I learned how to be passionate about cyclists because of.
Yeah.
I mean, he just oozes passion for cycling.
And yeah, we've been following, both of us have been following him for many, many years, from his days at GCN to now with Sigma and even GCN Racing and the stuff he's doing at Zwift. In many ways, Matt's been at the forefront of like cycling media for the better part of a decade. I mean, and before that, he he might have done a little bit of amateur racing and pro racing. So a few of the races he was in the 90s. First overall Tour of the Peak, 94, third National Amateur Criterium in the UK, 95, first Tom Simpson Memorial Race, 98, first at National Road Race Championships in the UK, first at Tom Simpson again in 99, second at Tour of the Cotswolds in 2000. And he even did a Tour Down Under, which I didn't know. And I wish I would have asked him about that because that's a ridiculous race. He did get eighth, not his best showing, but that's a challenging race from what I understand. And then first, he got the Manx Trophy, and then first overall at the Tour of Northumberland for a few. So he definitely has an interesting history as to where he came from a cycling perspective and how he got started and kind of where that love for cycling, because it's very evident in the videos that he does that the man loves cycling.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen him on GCN or Sigma Sports, make sure you check him out. And I highly recommend looking at some of the old GCN outtakes with him because
oh my God,
it's like
amazing.
10 minutes of just him laughing.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll actually post at some point one of the videos of him just kind of laughing, and he has that infectious laugh, which is
he does.
But I think it's best that we hear it from him. What do you think?
Let's get started.
Let's do it. Welcome to 5339, a podcast about cycling for cyclists by non-pros. Let's get to it.
For those of you familiar with Sigma Sports, you'll recognize Matt, but if you follow racing at all across the pond in Europe, you'll certainly recognize his voice. But Matt Stevens, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much, guys. It's very, very kind of you to ask me on. I'm looking forward to having a good natter.
I mean, to be fully honest with you, Matt, we really just wanted you on for your laugh because I think that's what you're best known for.
I'll see. Let's see if it turns up. If it makes an appearance. Yeah, it's a kind of a weird one. You know, when people ask you to laugh on demand, it's just like
no, it's that yeah.
See, there you go. You got it.
It's that purely natural laugh that comes out that it seems to make the blooper reels wherever you are shooting content.
Yeah, it's generally because of my ineptitude in general life, and I just kind of just laugh at my own stupidity a lot of the time, I guess.
If you can't laugh at yourself, you know.
Exactly. It's funny, actually, way back in the GCN days, we did actually, this was like, maybe 2014, we turned my laugh into a ringtone, and it was on iTunes, and you could buy it for charity. You know when you could buy ringtones?
Yeah.
Back then, like, nobody buys ringtones, you just crop them, don't you now? But back then, we did sell a few at 99 pence each on iTunes. So that was peak Matt Stevens laugh.
Can you imagine waking up to Matt Stevens laugh from a text message in the middle of the night?
It's terrible. The thought of that just kept me awake at night. There we go.
I had the T-Rex from Jurassic Park at one point, and then I got a call from my brother at like 3 a.m. I never had that ringtone again.
Christ, right? Fair enough.
Yeah.
So I thought it was interesting doing some research on you, Matt, that you and Andrew actually share the same cycling icon.
Greg.
Yeah.
Greg LeMond. Yeah.
I think it's a little bit for different reasons, although probably similar, I would guess. But so for me, I have ADHD, right? So it's, paying attention to things is rather challenging at times.
Okay.
So I read a little bit about Greg, and like he has that as well. I've just always kind of looked at him as an inspirational point because like he uses riding as a way to counteract the ADHD and kind of clear that mental fog. as he says, and it works for me too, which is great. But so, what is it about Greg that really inspires you?
I think it was. I wasn't a cyclist from the off. I didn't start riding my bike, I guess, competitively till I was 16 or 17. But my dad was a keen racer, and there was a lot of cycling magazines around the house. But back in the early 1980s, there wasn't a lot of cycling on the telly. Even in the UK, it was like just for the Tour de France, an hour a week highlights, and then we started to get more and more through the late 1980s. Greg LeMond was at the kind of forefront of the English-speaking riders. Obviously, got Stephen Roach and Sean Kelly, Robert Miller at the time, Phil Anderson, guys that I really admired and still do. But there's something about Greg that resonated with me. He was different. He did things differently over a very short period of time. I don't know. I just liked the way he did things. I liked his style on the bike. I liked the fact he was an innovator as well with the kind of kit he was. He's one of the first guys to kind of use time pedals, obviously the aero bars, Oakleys, just the whole thing. And then I went to the Tour de France in 1986. It's the first tour I'd been to with my dad.
That's a heck of a good one to go to.
Yeah, and there we were on Alpe d'Huez watching Hino and Greg come up the Alpe d'Huez, and I, before I went there, I had the look, the La Vie Claire kit as well. So I was wearing the La Vie Claire kit. I wanted to look like Greg, and then he won that tour, and that was the point. I said to my young self that I wanted to be a racer, and so he's been a hero of mine ever since. And I actually did race against him briefly in the Nissan Classic 1990, I think it was. I did one stage because he wanted to play golf. That was interesting. But no, and then I've got to work with him a few times at Eurosport when he was on the Tour de France a couple of years ago. So our paths crossed a lot. And at Rouleur Classic, I interviewed him. Actually, it was last year or the year before. And we got on really well. I get on well with his wife, Kathy. And we've hung out a bit. And he's every bit the nice guy that you think he might be. But he just wants to talk all the time. He's got so much to say. And seemingly very little time to say it. He's just like this animated ball of kind of joy. He really is an interesting guy, and from an athletic perspective, just somebody that I'd really, really admired. So there you go, in a 3-minute nutshell. That's awesome. Why I like Greg LeMond. Yeah, he's a bit of a legend, and I, of course, had posters of him on my wall and stuff like you do as a kid.
That's awesome.
Although most of my mates had footballers, I had footballers and cyclists. So
nothing wrong with that. I mean, whenever you think about, at least for me, it's like Hino and LeMond Alpe d'Huez. It's just, I don't know. It doesn't get much better than that. And I've only watched it on video and YouTube and things like that. But it's one of those like truly awesome moments. But.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. There was one. I have said this before in a couple of interviews I've done, but I'll say it again because it was quite an interesting moment. So when I was on the climb, we were about maybe 2.5 kilometers from the top. Me and my dad, we'd been there all day. We rode up. We were camping, so we had a little Citroen and we parked up and we camped by the side of by the river, which is glacial melt. So having a wash in the morning was interesting. Freezing cold,
a little chilly, yeah.
Yeah, a little chilly. But it woke us up. But anyway, we rode up Alpe d'Huez, stood there at the side of the road, and I had a little camera with me, and just as they were like 15, 20 feet away, I managed to crouch down and took a photo, stepped out of the way. It's like what it's like in a bike race. It's like the parting of the waves, isn't it? The riders are riding through. Now it's phones, isn't it? Back then, it was either people shouting really loudly or they still had cameras,
In some cases, cardboard signs, but we don't have to talk about
cardboard signs, yeah. Sadly. But anyway, so I took this photo, cut long story short, fast forward 2 or 3 weeks, got the photos developed, and I had this really lovely picture, and my dad still got it somewhere, of Greg and Bernard Hinault fully in frame, really in focus shot.
Wow.
So I was really chuffed. And then, do you remember what you guys would remember Winning magazine? It was obviously the American magazine,
yep.
glossy, the one we kind of waited for to read about the classics. And in the Tour de France for a couple of years, they used to have a weekly color newspaper that you could order, and they would send it to your house. So after week 1 of the tour, you'd get a color newspaper, and it was like a gatefold, not the New York Times, like this big, enormous.
Yeah.
So and it was full color. So
The
in
the
1980s.
print term is the Z gate.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think what do we call it in the UK? I can't remember what we call it. We have a special word for it. But anyway,
Yeah.
so the one when I got home, the final one arrived, and I opened it up, and in the centre there was this enormous photograph taken from a helicopter of Outdoors with all the crowd on it and the switchbacks. I was looking, I thought, wow, I might be in there somewhere. And I counted down, I could see the lead car and where Greg LeMond and Hino were. And then you could actually, we kind of zoomed in as best I could. Obviously, now I'd want to pinch it, and drag it in like you do on an iPad. But I could clearly see me stood in front of those guys taking my photo while a helicopter took the photo of Outdoors at the same time.
Oh, how cool.
So that was super, super cool. And I could
That's
this
awesome.
little white dot. And I had to double check with my dad. He said, "Is that me?" He said, "Yeah," because we worked out the kind of people that stood next to us, how far we were from the bend. And so, yeah, I've got this photo in Winning Magazine of me taking a picture of LeMond and Hino. And I've got the picture.
So most people will think of that as a picture of those two, but it's really the world's introduction to Matt Stevens.
I guess in its nascent stages, yes, you were right. Yeah, kind of.
Do you still have the paper?
Somewhere. I think my dad's got it. I might, I might even look online. I'll probably if I can't find it, I'm gonna. This podcast might inspire me to go on eBay and see if I can dig one out somewhere. Some collector will have one somewhere.
Oh, I'm sure.
So is it safe to say that your kind of passion kind of stemmed from that moment?
Yeah, I mean, I liked cycling then, and I became interested in it, but it certainly wasn't my passion. I really enjoyed going to the tour with my dad, and I had a lot of fun. But it really was quite. Can you call it an epiphany at 16? I don't know, but it certainly inspired me enough.
Transformative, maybe.
Yeah, something like that. I kind of knew that I felt this buzz, and I was quite fit then as well. I was a skinny kid, underdeveloped, but I could climb really well. My mum, I had the shorts on that I wanted, those Lavie Claire shorts, made by Santini, but we had to use safety pins because my thighs were so narrow they were flapping around like a pair of football shorts.
That's just resistance training. That's all that is.
Say you're just losing watts there. That's certainly something. That's certainly something I've never had to deal with. I grew up playing hockey, Matt, so my legs have never been small.
Oh right, no, my legs were.
I got into cycling as a training mechanism for hockey, and I have no problem filling out the bib shorts.
Yeah, no, it was. It was great. It was inspirational. But yeah, I was very skinny. My knees were kind of slightly wider than my thighs at one point.
I mean, It makes you a good climber.
Indeed.
So I mean, you're obviously still active in the sport. What's a typical ride look like for you in quote unquote retirement?
I do ride. I don't ride an awful lot on the road because of time. Although I hope that will change. I currently live in Surrey in West London near Hampton Court, as I told you guys on our warm-up chat. And although it's beautiful around here, it's quite busy. There's quite a lot of traffic, and I'm not a big fan of riding in the traffic. So I'll be blunt. Because of where I live, although there are some cool places to ride to, it's just there's a lot of traffic, so I don't ride as much. So I do a lot of riding on Zwift because I can get a lot of bang for my buck. I can do 45 minutes on Zwift at threshold, and that buys you quite a lot of fitness very, very quickly.
Yep.
But I do quite a lot of. But saying that, every now and again, a couple of times a month, well, maybe 3 times a month, I'll go out and I will go and ride on the road, but never that far. But if I do an event, then I was in the Isle of Wight the other day with Bradley Wiggins, Adam Blythe on an event called LeBlanc, and I did 350 Ks. That was great fun. And when I go abroad to commentate on bike race, I always take my Brompton. And on the rest day of the Giro, something I will do 2 or 3 hours, but on the Brompton. So I did like 60K on the Strada Bianca stage of this year's Giro, and on my rest day just to recon all the route, but on a Brompton. So
60K on a Brompton.
Yeah, on a load of it on gravel as well. So it was
done. That's impressitive.
It was good fun. So I've got a really.
Was your average cadence about 110?
It's yeah. I mean, there's some pretty wide gear ratios on a 60 Brompton. I must admit, they're a great little machine, but the ratios are wide. So you're either like 60 RPM or 120 on the flat. But no, they're great. So yeah, my riding is as and when. I like to keep reasonably fit. I have to look like I'm reasonably in shape because I make video content in Lycra, you know. So and I like to be able to press on when I want and go easy when I want. So riding as a pro was hard. You sacrifice a lot, but now I think it's fair to say I'm enjoying my riding more than ever because I can just pick and choose how hard or easy I go. And it doesn't matter. I can stop off and take a photo of a beautiful view or whatever. Cycling is, I kind of love it more than I ever have, even though I ride a little bit less, if that makes sense.
I actually think that comes through in your content, Matt. You can just tell that there's still just this sheer, basically 12-year-old joy when you get on a bike, and it's infectious.
No, that's really kind. It's genuine. I do love it. It's a very overused word in our industry, isn't it? Passionate, but I am. I love it. But I think the fact that it's when you're a pro rider, whatever discipline you do, if you want to stay at a good level and win bike races, you've got to be very, very disciplined. Mm-hmm. And within that discipline, there is sacrifice, and you need a certain kind of lifestyle, and that's only sustainable for a certain amount of time.
Yep.
Not just from a physiological point of view, from a mental point of view, because it's very, very, it can be quite stressful. But now that's gone. I look back on it with a lot of fondness, but now I choose, and I've just got a far better relationship with the bikes that I ride now because I know they're not going to torture me, or I'm not going to torture myself. So
that's always a good thing. I mean, it kind of begs the question, though. I hate to use the term origin story, but we know it because we've probably done more research than most on you, but you kind of came from obviously cycling was always a thing in your life, but where you started in your transition to pro, or like heavy amateur, or however you would want to phrase that, is kind of interesting. So, you were in the police force for many years.
Yep.
So how did you kind of transition out of that into racing?
Well, it was the other way around, actually. So I was
okay.
So I was a police officer from 31 years of age to 42. So my riding days were before that, although I rode through being a police officer. So if we go back to 86.
Oh, yep. Sorry, I got that backwards.
No, it's fine. It's absolutely fine. No, 86, decided in my little mind, God, I want to ride my bike. I want to race. So I did start racing the following season. I became pretty good quite quickly on the domestic scene in the UK, won the British Junior Racing League, which is called the Peter Buckley Trophy. So it's like a Grand Prix series of events, and I won that in 88.
Okay.
Then I got picked for the World Championships at amateur level as a senior in 89, went to Chambéry, where Le Monde won his second road title, and I rode the amateurs. And then in 90, then I was offered a few pro contracts by British domestic teams, but I chose on good money back then. Actually, the British domestic scene was really in a great place. We had 60 or 70 domestic pros with their own kind of series, and it was kind of tempting. But so I turned down a reasonable amount of money for that era to go and race for ACBB in France, which was the biggest French amateur team at the time, and the team that Stephen Roach, Robert Miller, Phil Anderson, Alan Piper, to name a few, had passed.
And it has a hell of a lineage coming out of that team too.
Yeah, so that was great. I really enjoyed it. It was hard. I was living on £100 a month, £25 a week. So what's that? $40 a week. But you learn how to budget. It's not much, but it was great fun. I wouldn't ever take anything back. I really enjoyed it. Learned French pretty well, so I was a reasonably decent French speaker. And just being an amateur racing in France was just a lot of fun. But the professional contract I wanted didn't materialize. So I came back home in 1993, got a full-time job, which I had. So the full-time job I had till 1999, but I was training and racing domestically and being picked for Great Britain. And eventually, again, to cut a long story short, 1995, I was top 10 in the world, nearly signed for Lance's team at the time. Then the fledgling US Postal team, I was asked to ride for them. Eddie Borschwitz asked me to ride. He left the team, so I was left with nothing again. Then finally, in 1998, won the British Road Championships, the Elite Championships, whilst I was working. Then got picked up by the Linda McCartney team for the back end of 1999, and then we went big time in 2000. So it's I had only a brief tenure at the top level, really.
Okay.
Although I did do an Olympic Games, British champion, Commonwealth Games, 7 or 8 appearances at the World Road Championships across amateur and elite. So a lot of good experiences, and then that all ended in 2001 when the team. So I'd signed another contract for Linda McCartney. We had, like, Brad Wiggins was on board for that following year. A roster of about 20 riders, and as is well documented, the team folded. There wasn't any money, so I ended up on Social Security for just a week. In the UK, we call it signing on the dole, which is basically you've got no employment. So I was unemployed.
Yeah.
So went to work in a supermarket, working nights, filling the shelves and managing a team of guys and girls, and that was hard. Lost the kind of desire to ride my bike. Then it came back, and I realised there was something lacking in my life, and I was getting pretty depressed. And then joined the police. So then for the next decade, I raced and joined the police, and we founded the Sigma Sports team. They went up to UCI level. I was like rider manager. And then in like 2012, 2013, there was a lot of media opportunities that had come about. And I decided to jump ship, leave the police, and try and nurture this media type of career through initially GCN and the start of the YouTube channel, then Eurosport commentating, doing some live events. Yeah. And for the first year or so, it was quite a struggle. Didn't really earn much money, but that soon snowballed, and here we are today. So that's me in a nutshell. So that's the order. So in summary, it's been quite an unorthodox career in terms of how I've got to where I am now.
It sounded like that early years where you said the money was quite good in domestic teams. Ted King kind of said that as well. Like, it seems that era globally in cycling was amazing and just super lucrative, but a lot of us don't do it for the money. But it just happened to be a byproduct, and there were a lot of domestic teams in the US too, from what I was told.
Yeah. I mean, there was, and you had the Coors Classic. I mean, just the American races domestically, you had some big stage races. You had the Coors Classic, you had the Tour de Trump, as you know, bizarre as that was looking back now. But you had a lot of big events, and I know that a couple of my friends, like Malcolm Elliott, for example, went over in the mid-90s to ride for LA Sheriffs, and because he was earning really, really good money. And I was offered as a kid in 1989 £20,000 for 1 year with a domestic British team.
Wow!
So, which is like $30,000 30 years ago.
Yeah.
So so guys were buying houses and stuff like that. I mean, and set them up for life. So, and I was only just like one of the lower paid guys in the team. So that's what you could earn. I mean, and now it's gone the other way. So guys are, with respect, I mean, there's a few guys earning reasonable money on the domestic scene in the UK, but not many. It's a tough scene right now. It's gone completely the other way. But back then, mid-80s to the early 90s in the UK, maybe 93, it was good.
You had success. You won the national road champs as a junior and as an elite. You got a couple other victories under your belt. You got Olympics. What's the highlight for you from your racing career?
I think my highlight is, because my results now, when you look back at my results, they're kind of modest when you compare them to the success of British riders in the last decade. And when you look at the young guys coming through and women coming through, we've got, because we have a system in place that's now the envy of I don't know whether it's the envy of the world. It's also much maligned as well, but a lot of people think certain things about it, I guess. But we have a system that was created at the back end of the 90s off the back of lottery funding, where every single region in the UK has an access point for kids to ride their bikes, and scouts will go into schools, give kids the tools, identify talent at a very, very early age. We're talking about primary school, junior school age.
Wow.
And if they want, give them the opportunity to take that further. So, and over a period of a decade, you identified got this massive pool of potential. So nobody slipped through not many people slipped through the net, because every single region had a go ride like leader. They go into all the schools and like give opportunities for kids to ride bikes through the track, BMX, mountain biking, primarily through the track. That led to the road. And now we have this conveyor belt, and it's still in place now. It's called something different. So you have this conveyor belt of talent coming through across the male and female side of things. and across all the disciplines. So we're winning at mountain biking, winning at BMX, winning on the track, winning on the road. But when I was younger, we didn't have any of that. So it's kind of random. You either got through cycling through a friend of the family or your family or just a friend. You might have seen it on TV and just found your own way. And I found my own way. But it was tough to turn pro when you're just on your own. But the system now is absolutely incredible compared to what it was.
That's super cool. Yeah, that's one thing that, we here in the US don't really have is I've always admired the British system of, not system, I guess, but like, I don't know how to put it into words, but the British love for cycling is just there. And whether it's present and yet omnipresent at the same time, which is kind of cool to me. Like culturally, I feel like you guys love cycling and that's just cool.
Yeah, we've got a big. It's an interesting one because when I first started riding in the mid '80s, cycling, if you were like dressed in lycra riding around, I mean, you'd be like called names and stuff, just made fun of a little bit. Nothing horrible.
Yeah,
Then, it is here.
but fast forward to the noughties, now, Christ, everybody's riding their bike. It is absolutely insane how many people are riding their bikes. And then you've had Olympic success. Mm-hmm. Lockdown very, very recently has changed people's attitudes towards transport. Not as many people on public transport. They're buying bikes, and that's happened across the world.
Yeah.
But, so we've always been in love with bicycles to varying kind of waves, but more and more now as our infrastructures are changing to reflect the interest that people have and the love for it. So it's always been there, but it's only come to the surface, I think, over the last 5 or 10 years, to the stage where we're at a point where we're kind of running out of bikes. It's wonderful. It really is. So we've always loved it, but more, I think, early on as more a mode of transport. And if you raced bikes, you're a bit strange. But now, if you race bikes, it's like brilliant. We've got household names now. So yeah, I think cycling is really embedded within society now. It will always ebb and flow, but I think it's here to stay, and it's great.
I truly hope you're right about that. I mean, I've said that since kind of the beginning of the pandemic, that I hope the cycling boom globally is here to stay this time instead of the ebbs and flows. But, and Andrew and I've talked about this quite a bit off air, but two of the things that I'm really jealous of with the UK cycling is the TT scene that you can get into from an amateur standpoint. I love the 10-mile TT, but I also think the hill climb season in the fall is really fascinating.
It's nuts. Yeah.
I'm obviously not a climber. I'm a 100-kilo rider, so I'm not a climber, but I would love to get into the hill climb scene just because I think it would be a lot of fun.
There's nothing like it. I don't think anywhere in the world has a time trial scene like we do. So I was part of that when I was younger, but the roads are a lot busier now. So there are still a lot of time trials. I don't really follow it quite as much, but back 30 odd years, 20 years, it was really big. And my dad used to do it in the 1970s and the 80s. And then I did it because it was a great form of training. I always did one club time trial a week, but every day of the week in the UK, you wouldn't need to travel very far and you could ride a time trial. But then the hill climb thing, that's just weird. Who the hell wants to do that? But I mean, the other countries are the ones that have got it right because they don't do it, because we're just the lunatics that actually have this hill climb thing. And I did it, and I used to absolutely hate it, but I was quite good at it. I never won the British Championships or anything, but I was pretty decent at it. But I used to hate it. And I think I did my last hill climb when I was only about 24. I thought, that's enough. I mean, racing's hard enough, let alone crucifying yourself for 3 minutes. Just like,
but without the hill climb scene, we wouldn't know who Andy Feather is.
Exactly. There you go. And what a name! What an example of nominative determinism. Yeah.
Oh yeah. And the hill climb thing is actually kind of interesting because I don't know if you're into motorsports at all, but you guys also have hill climbing motorsports. Like it's not really found anywhere else. I mean, we have Pikes Peak here, or as some have called it from your country, Pikey's Peak. But I don't know if I can say that. Is that offensive?
It's fine, I think. It kind of. Yeah, but you can get away with it because that's fine.
I'm just ignorant to it all. But yeah, it's the hill climb thing just is weird. Even from like the motorsport to biking, it's just it's a purely British thing. Oddly enough,
Yeah, it's a scene. I mean, I'd rather go and watch a hill climb than do them now.
Oh, hell
But
yeah.
they are they're a proper event. And quite often you'll get two for the price of one. You'll get two clubs running them on the same morning, and one will be at 11 o'clock, or one will be at 9, and one will be at 11:30. So you go and do one, ride your bike, and go and do the other one. But
Yeah.
they always have great crowds. There's always a really nice atmosphere there. It's around a village hall somewhere, so there'll be cups of tea and cakes and stuff on offer. They're just there's a bit of a resurgence over the last couple of years. There's some really popular ones that actually get really big crowds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
And they've become quite hip as well, because there's a kind of retro feel about them, and they're kind of quite not just anachronistic, but they're because no one else does them in the world. We kind of cherish them quite a bit.
Yeah.
So they're definitely cool in a weird way.
Well, and then you have the true psychopaths that do it on a fixed gear, which is just mind blowing.
Yeah, I did one on a fixed gear once. I borrowed Chris Boardman's bike for the national championships, and I did one on a fixed. And God, that hurt. That really hurt. I mean, you can only use a fixed on a particular sort of climb where the gradient is, as you know. But I did it on this climb down in Shropshire, which was horrible. And I nearly fainted. And I do have a picture of me somewhere. I had to dig out. And it was a tailwind. I had really long hair, and I didn't wear a helmet. You didn't need to wear helmets in time trials then. And I had this tailwind up this climb on Chris's track bike, and all you can see is my chin, and with all this kind of hair in front of it. I look like a shaggy dog. It's a strange picture.
Yeah. What is it from the Addams Family? Cousin It?
Cousin It, yeah.
Yes, that's it. That's it. Yeah. Yep, that's him. That was me.
So, Matt,
I like it.
you've been quoted saying that your biggest regret with your race career was not reaching your potential, and you felt like you really would have benefited from training with power. Why do you feel like that would have benefited you so much more than maybe some of the other competitors you were racing against at the time?
I think that's a really good point. I mean, when I say I didn't reach my potential, I guess a lot of riders of my era didn't either. So you can't. It's a weird thing to say. You can't just take yourself out of that situation and say. I mean, I guess if we'd all had power and a deeper understanding about training, we would have done better. But I always seem to be just on the cusp of things all the time, just missing out on the edge. So a lot of and I got to be quite a decent bike rider just based on feel, based on reading a lot and anecdotal stuff from people, cherry picking stuff that I'd read about or heard about. And most of my best years were like pre-internet. We're talking when I won the nationals in '98. It was just the nascent years of the internet. It took you like 15 minutes to download a high-res image. It was really dial-up. So there wasn't this open source amount. There wasn't so much open source stuff. Open source was books. So it was any information was really slow, and it was peer-to-peer kind of stuff, direct interface with people, coaches. Necessarily regret anything, because I wouldn't be here having this conversation with you if I hadn't have taken the course that I'd taken. But it's very strange commentating on a bike race now with the level of understanding I think I've got on the way bike races unfold, the psychology behind riders, a pretty good grasp now of how riders train. And I just find it an intriguing proposition. And I think that's quite natural to think, I wonder what I could do now and how quick I could go and how much more versatile I potentially could have been. So that's more what I mean.
Yeah.
And I kind of often think about that. And I often think there's a few maybe lost opportunities, but you can't think that way, because here I am now, and I don't. Yeah. And if I had, taken some opportunities, I would. I guess I'm pretty sure I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So I think the cards that I've been dealt, although on many, many occasions they were bum cars. It was like, Christ, what the hell am I going to do now? And I'm on the dole. I've got no money. I've got to sell my bikes. I'm depressed. And there's been various times I wanted to throw the bike away. But here I am in a position where I feel privileged actually to do what I'm doing now. Talk about bikes for a living to people who want to listen and people who are kind enough to, like yourselves, to get back to me and say, we want to talk about what you've done. And that's really quite a wonderful thing. So there are kind of small regrets, but ultimately I'm really, really, I'm the happiest that I've ever been in my life. and that's that. So I feel quite lucky.
I was gonna say that you had said that you often found like you were on the precipice of something, but not quite catching that wave. I mean, I'd actually argue the difference. I mean, obviously, from your amateur to pro career, I can't really speak to that, but I think you within the media, in the cycling media, to be specific, you've definitely caught that wave, and you're kind of leading us into an era that is ultimately amazing. I mean, we have more transparency than we ever have in cycling, I think, and kind of informing us from a point of view that I don't think many sports have that opportunity or have people as yourself that kind of give it from that point of view. So, I think you've kind of led the tip of the spear in some ways in the media realm for cycling. So
I've never really thought about it like that, but I just kind of crack on. But I guess when you look at it, and I go back to only 10 years, 8 years ago, off the back of all the Olympic success and these opportunities within the media that arose. And I have to, doff my cap to GCN really on this one, because we were given this opportunity. It was Simon Weir, who was the brainchild behind it, who's a bit of a visionary, really, an entrepreneur visionary in the cycling industry. Nobody really talks about him too much, but he's the man behind the scenes. We've had some fallings out over the years, but I've got a lot of respect for him. And he had this vision, pulled me and Dan in, Simon Richardson, and a guy called Mike Reese, who's still there, works in production there. Mm-hmm. And we gelled very, very quickly. Tom Last as well. And weirdly, Tom, Simon, so Tom Last, Simon Richardson, and Dan Lloyd all rode. I managed them all at Sigma Sports, the UCI team as well. So that was kind of strange. So we all rode together. I hired them. We all rode for the same team. We all then went our different ways for like 18 months, and then like ended up, hey, hi guys, here we are running this nascent YouTube channel, because there wasn't any. There was a lot of editorial online with cycling, but there's nothing. There was no video at all.
Yeah.
So we kind of thought, well, what do we think people want? And it's like, well, so we had an idea of what we wanted to do, like a weekly, one video a day for a week with a clear structure. So a news show, and then cycling tips and stuff like that. How to get people into cycling, how to share our love really, and get people into cycling, because there was nothing else like it. So we kind of wrote the template, and we, between us all, we wrote everything, and nobody else wrote it. So me and Dan, I think I wrote in the end about 1,000 videos, something like that, about how to get people, just to how to, if you think about your level of knowledge of cycling, both of yours, and you, like from getting up in the morning, having your breakfast, opening the curtains, looking at the weather, making sure your bike's in good working order, getting your kit on, going for a ride, all the skill sets required, getting home, this, when you deconstruct cycling, it is just, I wouldn't say it's infinite, but it's kind of borderline infinite.
Yeah.
The kind of all the different variables there are, and there's so much to learn. And because we're slightly older chaps, we've learned that, I think, by a process over the years of osmosis. We haven't really even realized we're learning stuff. You just do it. But there's all these new people coming in who were like, oh, this looks like a great sport. What do I do? And it's like, well, just get on your bike and ride. It's like, well, it's not as easy as that. So
it kind of starts that way, but it really isn't that way the more you're in it.
Exactly. So that's what that started. So we basically were the first to get back to your point. From that point on, my 4 or 5 years with GCN were brilliant. Then with Eurosport, and I really took to that quite well, I think. But I also became really aware that the importance of commentating on a bike race was to deconstruct the bike race as best as possible without demystifying it, because we all, you as a commentator, you need to deconstruct it so people can understand it. But also, the wonderful thing about a bike race is its unpredictability and its narrative. Although there are patterns that happen in races, we all know that. But increasingly over the last couple of years, those patterns have been broken down, and that's very exciting. So my job in digital content is to kind of inform people, engage with people, make people laugh, because I like comedy. I like making people laugh. I think it's what I brought this kind of weird angle to it, which was a bit maybe self-deprecating and silly, but ultimately, when we all rode our bikes for the first time, generally it's with a bunch of mates and we just had a laugh. That's fundamentally important. And then with racing and calling bike races, it's the same thing. I love this sport so much, I just want to share it. Like when you're in a relationship with somebody, you're married or whatever, your first girlfriend, your first boyfriend, and you see a magnificent piece of art, you go on holiday and see this view, you hear this piece of music, you eat a meal. To properly enjoy anything, it needs to be shared. So that's what is my raison d'etre. That's what I try and convey is this is great. And I'm constantly learning all the time to try and get better at it. But that's what gives me the most joy, is sharing the beauty of this sport in all its various facets.
Yeah, and you've certainly managed to do that from a couple of different angles, from your time at GCN to commentating at Eurosport, and now you're making content for Sigma Sports.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
which, Andrew and I were laughing at your most recent videos with the new Cannondale and reimagining some of the scenes from Jurassic Park. If you guys haven't seen that, I highly suggest you take a look at Matt Stevens in the wild and coming across.
Yeah, I mean, I have to. Yeah, I have to. A big thumbs up. The guy that. Two guys that own Sigma Sports, Jason Turner and Ian Whittingham. Ian Whittingham is one of my best mates, was my best man at my wedding.
Okay.
And he helped me out. If we can briefly rewind again to the time when the Linda McCartney team folded, he was the guy that, put his hand in the safe and said, Matt, we're going to give you a little sponsorship deal to keep you riding in 2001, sorry. And then that team morphed in when I was on my uppers financially. Like he was very, very generous, kept me going, allowed me to pay the bills. And we're still good mates. Sigma has gone from strength to strength. They've now got a digital arm, and the team at they really understand and let me kind of be myself in the content. And so there's a guy called Niall Gaffney who writes pretty much all of the content, comes up with the ideas, and then we bounce off each other. We've got some really talented filmmakers in Ewan and in and also in Jake. And then Dan is the guy that kind of heads up the social media. So it's a really small team, but we want to make content that stands alone. So there are similarities to the ideology at kind of GCN, because obviously that I learned a lot there. But the stuff we're making now, I kind of want to be even more kind of not strange, but kind of or edgy, but that just has it. I just want to look at all the content out there and think, right, okay, we can just do better, and that's what we do. We look at stuff, think we can do this better, and that's what keeps us sharp, I think, without being arrogant. But still be fun. I think so bringing in other things that we enjoy, like that little mashup with Jurassic Park. I mean, that wasn't actually my idea. That was somebody else's. That was Niall's idea. But then we took it and kind of ran with it and amped it up, and it worked. I think it works. People seem to like it. So
it does.
But we've got a great team at Sigma Sports. They're a great bunch, and very little editorial steer. And brands now are trusting us to make this marketing content that there's a lot of marketing content out there that's really quite good. There's a lot of it that's pretty bad. So and I think that we can help brands with their marketing a little bit by making content that people actually want to watch, and sometimes don't even realize that we're trying to sell them a bike, so, and that's kind of what it is.
Now,
that's pretty cool.
You said you've shot, or wrote thousands of episodes for GCN. You've been with Sigma Sports now for, is it 4 years?
It's coming up to 4 years. Yeah.
So, I mean, you've done quite a few videos with Sigma as well. Do you have a favorite video that you've shot through the years? Because I know you've got some very memorable ones with, the
GCN ones
going through London with crazy costumes on, or
Well, I just think about the one with Mark Cavendish, one of your episodes where you guys are in I think it was a art museum, and Cavendish was standing posing as like a statue, and you walked up to him and like poked him or something. I don't know how you guys kept it together as long as you did.
Yeah.
But that was I watched that last night. It was probably one of the funniest things I've seen, and it's like one of those things that, like, you follow these two people on social media, and you kind of know them from their media personality, but having actually spoken to you in person, well, in person, in quotes, yesterday. It was just even funnier, but yeah, that's
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of videos that I think one of the ones that sticks out from the GCN days was probably what not to eat on your bike, where we went down to the Wye Valley, and we Mike, the producer, got these props, and then the rest we kind of just freestyled. And one of my favorite bits was Dan Lloyd riding along with that flat back of his with a pizza, and then me eating the pizza off his back.
Yeah.
And some of the outtakes from that, I mean, they must be, I don't know where they are now, but on some hard drive somewhere. But that was a lot of fun, and a lot of people really liked it. And I think that fun stuff at GCM was the stuff, as well as the places we travelled to, was one of these standouts. But there's loads. And then the cafe ride series that I'm doing with Sigma Sports is one of my favourite things as well. We've shot another one. I can't tell you who the guest is, but we shot another one recently.
I was going to ask if you were going to continue that now that
we are
opening back up again, because that's a good series.
Yeah, I mean they're quite big. They take a couple of days to film, generally speaking, and the one with Mark, we were over in the Isle of Man, and that went down really well, and he was really, really open. And I think back from I'm just interested in, as well as cycling, I'm interested in people, and when I was in the police, I conducted a lot of interviews. I was in child protection ultimately, and investigating historical child abuse allegations. So very different than the world that I kind of operate in now. But what I think it helped me with, and provided me with a set of skills that maybe I didn't realize I had, or maybe I knew I had, but had never come to the fore, is speaking to people. And I do love that interface. That's why I love my podcast, doing the podcast. And also the cafe rides are great because I've got these characters who I've managed to get a bit of trust with, because trust is one of the most important things when you're having a conversation.
Yeah.
And my kind of aim is to kind of try and unlock that person and see a side to them, but we've never seen before. And so it's a real challenge for me, but generally I do that by having fun. And quite often the conversation's all over the shop, but with Mark, he was really candid and open, and it was really a lovely two-way conversation. So I think the one that you watched the other night, I mean, that was, I mean, the bit with him being a statue was spontaneous. We went in and we were going to do this walk around. It's the Isle of Man Museum. And then I thought, how about there's a statue of you? And it's like, what? I said, yeah. But then I come in and then anyway, so that's what we shot. But it was quite spontaneous. Yeah.
No, it was your videos with him seem, I don't want to say more real, but like, it seems like you have an off camera relationship with Cav. Are you close with Mark? I mean, it just kind of comes through that way, that you guys have more than just a professional relationship on camera. You know, it seems like it runs deeper than that.
Yeah, but I think it'd be silly to say we're kind of besties or anything like that. But we
you guys don't have like friendship bracelets or anything that you've.
No, he's a lad that I've got. He's a busy man. He's a family man, and we do keep in contact, and we message each other every now and again and wish him all the best and stuff. And occasionally I might pop to his house and go for a bike ride. So, so there's that mutual respect there, and we have hung out outside of doing actual things, you know. So, which is nice. So I think that clearly helps. But saying that, there's a few people that we've chatted to where I've never done that before, like the video with Cecile Uttrup Ludwig. You know, I'd only ever interviewed her at the end of La Course as a quick flash interview for Eurosport, and then we went and did that in Denmark, and it was we had just had a blast. But again, she's that kind of character, I think.
Yeah.
But there still needs to be that trust. You still need to make sure that somebody feels at ease, and you know, with somebody, and that's always a challenge. But generally speaking, I haven't had a nightmare one generally, and obviously I'm quite selective with the people that we kind of choose, you know. So so I know I'm not going to get a hard time, but
no, we definitely understand that. It's one of those things that you're like, I really want to talk to this person, and then you do some of the research, and then you find that they might not have the best personality for some things.
We're all different. Yeah,
exactly. But I mean, I love the way your personality comes across in everything you do. I mean, it's very genuine and very, again, to use the word passionate, but that's
We can
it's
have
one
a
of the
passionate counter on the pod this time.
Yeah, definitely. It's
Passionate. We're
ding. Yep.
How passionate can we be? And then that it goes into another realm. That's a different sort of pod, isn't it? Once
Yeah.
you get above a certain level of passion.
We might have to put the explicit label on this one for passion.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting now to go off the bike a little bit, because like we'd like to talk about that a little bit. I mean, a lot of my friends always give me a hard time because I'm not the most active person on social media, which is a little challenging for us for the podcast. And we have to enlist our younger friend that we ride with for advice. But I've noticed that your Instagram, and I've been following you for quite some time. Now that I've said that out loud, it sounds like I'm a stalker, but been following you on Instagram, and I've noticed that like you have a healthy mix of bikes and like photography. So is photography one of your passions?
It's
count.
there you go. I do like it isn't
Okay.
but I'm fortunate enough. Sometimes you're just walking around wherever you might be, and you see something, you think, "Wow, that's just cool," and I'll just take a photo of it. And the other day, I just took a picture of a tree, because it looked beautiful, and there was the conchas were on the ground, now the horse chestnuts, and I don't know. Sometimes, and what I am into is art. Very, very much into collecting art and reading about the history of contemporary and classic art.
Okay.
I'm learning a lot at the moment. I immersed myself in several books, and the YouTube stuff I mostly watch at the moment is if it's not about cryptocurrency, which I'm also interested in, it's either film or it's art. So I'm interested in a lot of stuff outside of cycling.
Yeah.
But my biggest passion is art, and I think, but that leads into photography because a lot of the artists that I like take photos. So, and I'm visiting a lot more art galleries and stuff. So that I think that's always been there somewhere, but it was lockdown that because we spent a lot more time indoors, and this house is a nice house, but we didn't have a lot of pictures on the walls, and I started to buy some and collect, and I bought a few pictures from up and coming American artists as well that I've got quite friendly with on emails. So it's another whole community. So there's just over the last 18 months, there's 5 or 6 friends that I'm really close with who are artists.
That's really cool.
So I think there's something, but when I go abroad to the Giro or whatever, and you've got the Dolomites in front of you and these amazing views, you just want to share them. I think it's about share rather than photography itself.
Okay.
It's wanting to think, oh my God, I've got to show you this.
Yeah.
It's more that than, so I don't own a camera. They're all on my iPhone.
Oh yeah. I mean, yeah.
So I'm a
world's best camera.
I mean, they're amazing. What an astonishing bit of kit. I mean, it's just mind blowing, really, isn't it? So I'm more capturing little moments, and then a lot of the stuff I do on there is quite silly as well. So it's a mix of kind of hopefully quite nice images and me titting around, and then promo stuff for the videos that I do. So it's a bit.
I
of a mix.
enjoy it. Like photography and art. I'm a designer by trade, but like
right.
So like art is a fundamental thing. I took 4 years of art history, so it's.
Oh wow, blimey, that's wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those outside of biking, photography and design and art is like, I'm not going to use the P word again, but it's one of my loves in life. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's so I do enjoy your photography, having seen it, and thank you for sharing. It's keep on keeping on.
I will certainly try my best. Yeah.
So, we often wrap with 2 questions usually. One of which we changed, and we didn't put it in the document that we sent you ahead of time because we like to keep it spicy. So I'll let Nick ask the second question, but my question to you is, for people just getting into the sport, what is something that what type of advice would you give them? Because obviously coming out of I don't want to say coming out of the pandemic, but during a pandemic, or the bike explosion of 2020 and 2021.
I like that word bike. I like the word bike explosion. By the way, you need to patent that. I'll stick it on a hashtag quick. Someone's going to nick it.
We'll sell some shirts and bumper stickers.
Yeah.
Bike explosion. Yeah.
But what advice would you give to them coming into the sport?
My advice would be is firstly it'd be welcome rather than any advice, because you're doing the right thing buying a bike, and it would foremost
that message needs to be more widespread, because as roadies especially, we can be kind of hard to get included with.
Oh God,
and it's terrible.
You're right. You're totally right, and I think I was a part of that back in the 1980s when, without going off on too much of a tangent, we had cycling clubs and we just wanted it to be for us, and anybody who wanted to join had to go through some sort of almost like a weird initiation of just getting dropped on rides.
Yeah.
And then we wondered why membership fell away, and we wondered why that guy didn't come back. It's not because he punctured or we dropped him on a climb, because we told each other we're going to drop him and never saw him again. So, but now, I mean, we were horrible. I mean, it was just a silly attitude that we had.
Yeah.
But now, I mean, I completely the other way. It's like you said, it's like welcome people into the sport, regardless of what they want to do with it. But the fact they're on a bicycle, it means we're the same. We're using this ridiculously liberating, simple machine to move from A to B that will bring us joy, that will help us get to work, education, especially when you look at the bicycle as a tool in the third world and stuff. The fact that it can actually present people with opportunities that they might not ordinarily have to travel to a job or a place of education or to a place to get food, water. So the more you think about the bicycle, the more bike racing isn't actually the most important thing. It's actually this freeing, that's just the cherry on the cake, which we love because it's cool. But
I mean, look at education rates in like Central Africa. They've skyrocketed. I mean, you have greater access to everything, and that, I don't know, that's amazing to me. But
no, totally. And obviously we need to look at, I mean, there's the green argument as well.
Yeah.
Making short trips in cars, we shouldn't really be doing them. But I would, to answer your question, it would be my advice would be, if somebody said to me, come up and said, what should I do? First thing I'd say, well, what do you want to do? So why have you bought this bike? Is it to get to school? Is it to get fit? Do you want to race? So first off, find out what somebody wants to, if you're going to give advice, you need to know what do you want to do? Mm-hmm. And it's like, okay, Matt, I want to do this. Then I'll give them the advice. And it's basically ride your bike, firstly for enjoyment. It's just enjoyment. And then if you enjoy riding the bike, if you enjoy hopping on, even in bad weather, hopping on your bike and commuting to work, if you enjoy that, then the next step is, I think on Saturday, I might just go out for a ride on it. I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm just going to go for like 15, 20 miles and then get fitter. And all of us here know how addictive that can be.
Oh, yeah.
The endorphin drop you get, the kind of general levels of fitness, well-being, you sleep better, you eat better, you enjoy your food. It's great for people with mental health issues, as we all know, as Andrew was saying earlier on. It helps stabilize us, as does general exercise, not just cycling, but cycling can take us further. We can see more. We can, it's once you get bitten by the bug, it just escalates, doesn't it? But my advice would be, first and foremost, enjoy your cycling. Make friends. You just get somebody else who enjoys it, and then you just bounce off each other. It would be, it's very broad, but just enjoy it. And what do you want to do in cycling? Basically, and then my next piece of advice: well, if you want to ride 100 miles, this is what you need to do. If you want to just commute, well, that's absolutely fine as well. We're all one big family, an enormous family, But we all.
Calvin Jones once said, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't forget exactly how he worded it, but he said, "If you're on two wheels, you're family of mine."
There you go.
I thought that was a really good way of putting it. That we make fun of the dirt rags, quote unquote, of the mountain bikers, but they're still on two wheels. They're still friends of ours.
Totally. I think
there are dirty friends, though.
Yeah, I think it's such a tribal.
Look at you, Tyler.
It's so tribal, isn't it? But I love the diversity in cycling is insane. And rather than like keeping your head down with the silo mentality, it's reaching across those kind of differences, which I just like even more now, riding different sorts of bikes. The Brompton road bike, mountain bike. I've got that new CX bike downstairs, that new Canada. I just can't wait to get out and do some gravel on that.
Yeah, that looks like a fun bike.
Yeah. So, so that in a very long-winded, nearly 11-minute explanation, that's what my advice would be. So, if you want me to give you advice, you have to sit down and grab yourself a coffee because it's going to take a while.
Maybe a biscuit or two.
It definitely a biscuit or two, yeah.
So Matt, our non guest episodes we wrap up with a dream bike segment, but for most of our guests we kind of tweak the question a little bit, and I think I'm safe in asking it this way to you. So you've ridden countless bikes, from your reviews to your race days. Which one's been your favorite through all the years?
That's a really, really good question. It's actually one that quite a few people ask me, and it's really difficult to put. Oh God, my best bike. I could give you a couple of answers because all of the top end bikes that I'm riding now through Sigma, and then before that through GCN, when you're riding a bike that you could be ridden at World Tour level, there's not much between them really. It's more aesthetics, weight. You guys know the score, so they're all exceptionally good bikes, and you would be choosing the differences if you were to select one. The actual performance and they're minuscule. So my favorite bikes would have to be based on a set of experiences really. So I think one of my favorite bikes would be the one I won the national road race on. It was a giant TCR. It had spinaches on it, which were cool.
Yes.
Really one of the most dangerous wheels ever made.
Oh, they're still cool.
They were quick. They were very quick. I love the fact that they were dangerous. I kind of like that. That's kind of, I don't know.
The sound they make. The sound they make too, whenever you get to a certain speed, is
it's like a helicopter taking off, isn't it? Yeah, just great. Absolutely brilliant. So there was that. So I think the giant TCR, and it was in gold because I was riding for the Harrods team.
Oh, nice.
And also the fact it only had Ultegra on it, and so I won the British Elite Champs on a bike with Ultegra, which is kind of cool. Yeah. But Ultegra, I mean, I don't mind saying this. I love Shimano, but back then the Ultegra levers, they were a little bit plasticky and they kind of rattled. So blue tack.
Yeah.
So I to stop the rattling of my Ultegra lever hoods, I stuck blue tack underneath them, so the brakes didn't work as well, but they wouldn't rattle. So when I won the British Road Championships, I had blue tack inside the casing of both STI levers to stop them rattling, and it was only Ultegra only. So that and my dad's got that. My dad's still got that bike. I gave it to him a few years later. Awesome. And then he's still got it. He can't really ride anymore, but he still has that in his shed. Yeah. And he sprayed it up a different color. But the fact my dad still got that bike, and my dad's one of my biggest inspirations, is cool. So that bike is really the fact I know where it is with my dad, and I won that race is cool.
It's cool. You can go visit that kind of piece of history.
Yeah. I can just go visit, and I think most of the kit is still on it. I think the chain set still, the chain rings are gone and he's replaced them because they're worn out. But the chain set, the spider's still the same.
Wow.
And the seat pin is because it had one of those blade seat pins.
Yeah.
And they were quite, actually back then,
you'd never find one.
Yeah. And they're like back then they were quite a revolutionary bike because they had the stem, the kind of proprietary giant stem that you could negatively invert and had to change it into a TT bike.
Yep.
Really
stem, if you think about it, changed a lot of the modern. Yeah, I guess it was kind of a landmark thing because it was one of the first bikes to have the option to invert the stem and.
Exactly, and it was the most extreme geometry as well. It was basically like riding a BMX, wasn't it? And then it went from like standard diamond frames. And then, like, suddenly, giant, we've got this, what the hell is this? And it rode really well. It was a nice bike. So,
that's cool.
And then I'm going to ask a follow-up question for you, Matt. Along similar lines, though, but again, you get the demo, and a lot of the demos I think are more longer term. It's not like you're riding it for a week and giving your thoughts and sending.
Yeah, it's generally a few months. Yeah,
you get to keep them for a little bit. So, what would cause you to keep a bike or want a bike in your stable, in your personal stable at this point?
it would. That's a really good question. So, like one of the ones I'm given, like I want to hold on to it and keep it.
Yeah, like what would if you're testing something and you're like, oh, that's the one that I can't send this back. What's that it factor that bike's got to have for you to want to?
I think I had it. I mean, with and I'll be really honest. I mean, brands are brands, aren't they? I mean, the recent. I know there's been a recall, but the recent Specialized SL7 was off the charts. I mean, I wanted to keep it.
Yeah,
because it reminded me, although I'm nowhere near as fit, I'm still reasonably fit when we did the shoot. And I only had that one for a couple of weeks, actually. But so I did and I did an extra bit of riding on it because it felt so nice. So I would have wanted to keep that. It purely because they allowed us to kind of set it up pretty much to what my race position was. And a lot of the bikes, and this, I'm not like calling out any brands here because, bikes are expensive and quite often I'll get a bike for a few weeks or a couple of months. Then it goes on to somebody else in the press or something.
Yeah.
So I understand you can't always cut the steerers and stuff like that. And quite often I might not have the correct stem on it, or it might be out by a couple of centimeters. I'm cool with that because I'm not racing. But that SL7 I got, and it was pretty much set up for me to race. And it just felt like I was racing. And the way it rode was exciting. It's just an exciting bike. So I think any of the bikes that I get that are, again, the best way to play this is any top end bike I get that's my race position to like it. That's nostalgic. It's like, oh God, this is what racing was like. And that's so when I get on a more relaxed bike, it's like, this is really nice. It's cool, but I don't get that kind of adrenaline hit. But when I got on that, because it was set up perfectly, and of course it's a very nice bike, it reminded me of like, oh wow, this was the thrill of actually riding a bike fast around corners, descents, climbs, when you just, it's that excitement of feeling of putting yourself, it transported me back to when I was the cut and thrust of racing, basically. That
cool.
Would be that link.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So.
Makes sense. Well, Matt, I think that's going to wrap the episode. We certainly appreciate you coming on. And for our listeners, make sure to check his work out at Sigma Sports and his podcast, Matt Stevens Unplugged. I do hope that Sigma's treating you a little better than GCN, because I know you had to electrical tape your stripes on your arms at one point. So I hope they're treating you a little better than that.
Well,
that's just not very kind. I mean, it's a British company. You're British road champion. They can't even get you the stripes on your jersey.
Well, to be fair to GCN, after we did that video with the electrical stripes, because I was actually trying to make a point, although it was funny, we changed. We ended up with ASOS after that.
Yeah,
and the guys at ASOS, I got the stripes.
I know. I saw that video pop up again because YouTube knows what you're looking for, and it was Matt Stevens, and there was you electrical taping the bands on your sleeves. That cracked me up. It took me, Matt. It was awesome.
Yeah, it took me 3 years of knocking on the door, and eventually we got some people to do it, which was cool. But no,
that's great, man.
But no, thanks for having me on. It's been really nice to be on the other side of the mic, and you guys have thrown some nice questions at me. So, and it was nice meeting you, and thanks very much.
Likewise, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, Matt.
My pleasure.
Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review wherever you listen and tell your friends. It helps us get more listeners just like you. Also, be sure to follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and even Twitter. If you are enjoying this podcast and want us to continue to bring you entertaining guests and talk about interesting things, please consider contributing to us on Patreon. We appreciate your support. We're always open to suggestions for new topics, advice, and interviews. If you have a topic or a question you'd like to hear about, be sure to drop us a line at 5339cycling.com/topics or email us at info@5339cycling.com. Hammer on, everybody.
Well, I'm holding the mic, so I couldn't clap.
Yeah, weak. It's because you're sitting lazily on your
Because I'm
couch.
being the lazy podcast setup tonight.
Oh my god, yeah. I turn on the lights, get everything situated. I set up the call so Nick can get in and we can record this for everyone listening. Just trying to paint a picture here. I have my setup, so I'm sitting upright in a chair with my headphones on, the proper mic boom thing, and Nick's video pops up, and there is a microphone like moving around, and he's just like reclined.
My feet are elevated on.
Yeah,
the
I was gonna
footrest.
say, and I was like, I'm pretty sure I hear a dog breathing beside you, or hopefully it's not your wife. Nothing.
I doubt you heard that because she's just breathing. But
Yeah.
well, if we had a guest on, I would have spent a little bit more time. But no offense, I'm not trying to impress you.
Yeah, I wouldn't try to impress me either.